Welcome to another episode of the Seamanship Webinar brought to you by Untold Horizon. My name is Jeremy Dann, and with me today we have a special guest. This is Captain Joe Semler. He is a pilot, Puget Sound ship pilot, and today we're going to talk about Puget Sound and everything you should know about it when it comes to boating out there, and what the Sound has to offer, because it really is a great cruising ground. So, Joe, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Get a little bit of time off, relaxing here, and looking forward to the webinar. I've never done a webinar interview, so it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, with all this, being locked in place, it seems like doing this Zoom and webinar stuff is the way of the future, anyways, or for now, anyways. But so to get started, for not a lot of people understand what a pilot does, or they confuse it with an airline pilot. So why don't you go ahead and just give us a kind of an introduction about what pilots do?
Well, the one of the most important things is pilots have been around for a long time. Most sailing ships would carry a pilot. And if the pilot didn't perform properly, they'd decapitate him.
Oh,
find somebody else. So you got to be pretty careful, and you want to bring good service to your customers.
Sure.
So really, the role of the pilot is you have special knowledge of your area, like Puget Sound. I'm supposed to be an expert with Puget Sound and all the adjoining waterways. There, and you want to bring a certain amount of expertise and knowledge to the bridge with you. And
sure.
Your job is to get the ship safely from the pilot station through the your district to where it's going to be mooring, where it's going to do its commerce out. So that's your job, and there's a lot of things that are involved with that. You get on board, and for one, the captain always has command, and he can designate the command to like his first to his first officer, or somebody else. But you have the con. In the state of Washington, pilotage is compulsory, and when you board a ship, you get the con. It's by law, and that means you get the conduct of the ship from when you take over the con until the ship is docked. And you direct the navigation of the vessel, and you work with the bridge team to do that. You generally have a helmsman, and there's a couple officers on the bridge, and often the captain's up there all the time, and you talk about the transit, and but you're responsible for the safe conduct of the ship while it's in the waters of the state of Washington.
Now, what kind of experience or training do you have to go through in order to become a pilot?
Well, to become a pilot, things have evolved since I started. When I started, you did what which was 20 years ago. I started. I took my pilot's exam in 1996. I started in 2000, so things were a lot different. And then to qualify to be a state pilot, you had to have your federal pilotage, which you had to make familiarization trips through the Sound. And for me, I didn't have an unlimited license, so I had to go on board a ship or something that was over 5,000 gross tons, and make the familiarization trips on those ships. And then you go to the Coast Guard, you write a route description, and then you write the pilotage, which is drawn sections of this chart from memory, and then they grade you. And when you got all the different charts drawn for the Coast Guard and approved, then they give you an unlimited license for Puget Sound and all connecting water. And there's not a training before you become a pilot. You train. When I started, their training program You take a state exam. I took a state exam in 1996, and then I had to wait till the first of 2000 to start my actual training. So when you take an exam, maybe 15 guys pass, and whoever has a top score. For me, when I took the exam, when they had a written test which consist of rules of the road and local knowledge, and then they had oral exams that you took, and so they'd combine all those scores and put you on a list. And the person that started first, got the first job, was the person that got the best score. And so for me, I ended up I placed number 5 on the exam. So I waited. It was slow. The pilot's retiring was fairly slow.
Sure.
So it took, I think, 4.5 years for me to start, to get a position. 4 years for me to get a position to train, and then the training period was 6 months, and you had to make roughly 120 trips to various, all the ports in Puget Sound and waterways with what they call level 5 pilots and above. The training's much different now, but that's what it was in 2000.
Sure. Wow.
So
pretty extensive, yeah.
Oh yeah, well the training program, once you take the exam, it's pretty extensive, and pass the exam is pretty extensive. Now it's much different. It's like 18 to 24-month exam. You get a stipend, and you have a observation phase where you ride the ships with the pilot. You see what he does. You ask questions. You find out about the job and what's needed of you to do it. Then there's a middle portion of the process that's the training program, where the trainee will do the piloting under the supervision of the pilot, and then the pilot imparts knowledge to the trainee to try to help them along. And some pilots or trainees are pretty quick learners. I mean, they're all do really well, but some learn quicker than others, and so they go through the process and of the training process, and when they're ready to move forward, they go into an evaluation process, and the evaluation process is another testing process where they're evaluated on their each job that they do, and then you find out through that process where they need more work or what they need to improve on, and there's been people that haven't passed that process, So it's a fantastic program, and before they're done, they go through what we call a PPU training program, which is a personal piloting unit, electronic navigation system that we all carry. And when they're done with that, they receive their license, and then they go to work.
Sure.
And after that, once they go to work, there's another 5 years that they move up through different steps, right?
Yeah.
So they go through 5 years of different size ships. Like the first year, they can't touch any oil tankers. They can't be on they can be on a tanker, but it can't be carrying any cargo. And then there's tonnage limitations. Yeah, and the first year they can't be on a passenger carrying vessel. Only cargo vessels, bulk vessels, and but after they're done with their first year, then they move up, and that process is a 5-year process. And after the 5th year, then you do pretty much anything.
Yeah. You had shared a picture with me that I'm going to try and pull up of a miniature scale model of a ship.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's my brother, Big Steve. On there, we were in France. We went together 2 years ago. It's really fantastic. Port Revel, in outside of Grenoble, France.
Yeah, so there's your little scale model ship.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, nice. Yeah. I mean, that there is a typical, that it's about it's scale there, but the actual size of that when you're working on it's about 1,095 feet long, and it's it's a Panamax, a Panamax, so it's only 106 feet wide, but it's fairly skinny
Right.
compared to container ships now.
Yeah.
And we used to get a lot of those. We get them. Actually, I was on one just the other night from anchor in Elliott Bay into Pier 18, a short shift. So
yeah.
but this
So
we go to one of these facilities every 5 years.
okay.
Pilot does. They go when their first year, we send them right away.
Yeah.
A new pilot, and then every 5 years you go.
Are there multiple facilities like this?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
I've been to 3 separate facilities. I went to Port Revel here in 2002 was the first time I went. And then after that I went down to Australia, to Newcastle. Outside of Newcastle is a facility called Port Ash. They have a pretty good facility there. It's they got really good instructors. They're guys that work on the in Newcastle, taking the coal ships up the river there, and they get super size coal ships. So they're pretty handy. They're pretty informative pilots at Port Ash. And then I went to Poland, to a place in Iława, Poland, which is north of Gdynia by about 2 hours. And that's a really great school. They got great models. They make their own models there. And you got tankers, container ships. They had a 15,000 TEU model in Iława, and it was really great in the wind. You get wind on these lakes, and it makes it pretty challenging.
Yeah.
Scale, and I wish I can't remember if it's 1/20th scale, what the scale was, but 10 knots of wind is equivalent to like 50 knots of wind.
Oh wow, yeah.
And so, or a little bit more. So you get, when you get a breeze going on, it's a huge difference. It's like being in a Blair waterway with a 20-knot wind. You can be in a car ship, you can feel it. And
yeah.
So, and so anyway, in Iława, Poland, that school, they make their own models, and it's a really great facility. They got a great instructor there, a great facilitator, and so I really enjoyed that. And then my brother and I went 2 years ago to Port Revel, and we consider that maybe a little bit of the gold standard. It's been around since the early 60s, and it came together because of the Suez Canal, and the oil was starting to be moved around in larger ships. And so they Esso, I believe it was Esso who put this together, and they just developed it. It's changed hands a couple times. Right now an engineering firm owns it, but they're really cool facilities, and I love going and meeting the other people that go to the facilities, and the models are really good. They have a cruise ship model that's really good for us, because we don't, we get a lot of cruise ships in Seattle, and it's really good to tune your skills up with them. So it's really great opportunity to go to the schools. As far as training goes, we have like almost a training aspect every year. The first year you'll do your PPU training, and then personal piloting unit training, and the man model training. Second year you might do a bridge resource management type training, and electronic training. And we'll do before you're a 5th-year pilot, you'll be in a simulator doing Azipod and twin screw CP wheel type training, with different types of propulsion systems. Along the line, you'll do what we call escort team training, where you'll have tankers that you work with tugboats, and you do emergency maneuvers. And so we always got some type of training going on, for sure.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great. Got to keep. I mean, the Puget Sound's a beautiful place, and should stay that way, you know.
Oh yeah, no, and
Yeah.
they're on it. That's our mission. Our mission is,
Well, yeah.
is protect the people of the state of Washington, and to protect the sound. Not only for recreational use, but we got a keen eye on the commerce of the sound too, because
Right.
it's important to make that last for generations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
We've got-
so for folks listening, I myself, so I'm a captain on a tugboat, and I spent, I worked for a company that was on the East Coast, and then we decided to make a move west into Puget Sound, and I spent about a year out there towing oil barges, and that's where I met Joe. Worked with his son, and I was blown away by Puget Sound compared to really all of my experiences. Just the beauty of it, the weather, the currents. It was all a whole new ball game. So that's why we're here, to kind of dive into that. So when you, as a pilot, you've got ships coming in, and you come on and basically help take them in safely. I see a lot of pilots have their own navigation software that they bring as kind of like either a backup, or they just like to have their own stuff that they're familiar with. What kind of software or navigation? Like a lot of boaters are using tablets with navigation apps on them. So I was just kind of curious as to what your thoughts on were that.
Yeah, we use we've had different iterations of, we call them portable or personal piloting units, or portable piloting units. We see, like I said, we've had different iterations of them. Originally, we had used all the information through Bluetooth from the ship's AIS system. So we would use their position, their GPS that's in their AIS system, and their heading, and originally that's pretty, in their positioning. So that's originally what we got, and then of course the AIS information, and then it's morphed into a situation where we've got more advanced equipment that we hook into their AIS, their pilot plug, they call it.
Okay. Yep.
The equipment we have now is able to give you rate of turn, and it's got little MEMS gyros in it, and so your positioning can be really accurate, because we enhance it with our own GPS unit that we bring on board. That
okay.
it's sub-meter accuracy. And so we'll hook all that together, and then we have a tablet. Now it's become a tablet that we use. We use a tough tab.
Okay.
I don't know if they call it a tough tab or what, but it's a tablet. And I can turn it on, and I can set it up. And it works pretty good, especially for anchoring. We love it for anchoring.
Yeah.
But you plug in, and it'll automatically put in the size of the ship, and so you get rate of turn, and you can get we have what we call predictors on it, and it will predict from rate of turn and speed and course change what where the direction of the ship, and what where it's going to be going. And it's if it's a nice day, it's not really that necessary, but when it's in nighttime, if low visibility, if in your tight quarters, it's kind of handy to have. And we use a nav sim as a product we use, and it's good. It works really, really good. We've been on this iteration for about 2 years, and we have another year left before we'll probably move on to something else or renew the system that we have. So one of the drawbacks of it is we got to carry it around, and it all weighs about 6 pounds.
Yeah. So not only do you have to climb up a rickety pilot ladder, but you got to carry all that stuff with you, and I'm betting it's probably pretty challenging.
Yeah, it's funny because what's really good about it is I like the AIS information that we get, and as we used to only get tugboats and ships, and now we get
Yeah.
pleasure boaters, right? We get recreational craft
Yeah.
on it, and it makes it really handy if you got to get a hold of somebody. You can actually call them by name instead of
Right. Yeah.
looking at them, say, "Hey, that white boat out there with the mast,"
Right.
I know you're a
Yeah.
sailboat, but I can tell you're under power, so you're just a power-driven vessel.
That's right.
Or so it's pretty darn handy,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it works good.
Yeah, I feel like when I had my initial entry into Puget Sound coming up from LA, I feel like I had like the perfect introduction to it as far as weather goes, because we got our butts whipped coming up from LA, and then we finally got into the Strait of Juan de Fuca. So
Oh yeah, I know that place.
Yeah. Yeah, when you come in from sea, and you got the shipping lanes here, and so we got our our butts whooped. We gotten there in November, December ish.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
So we finally got into the strait, and things started to lay down, and we were really thankful. And so we were thinking we were going to be in Seattle, but it's just a few more hours away. But we're a tugboat and we're super slow, so it took more than just a few hours. But anyways, yeah. So we get in here, and it turns into pea soup fog, and we're kind of chugging along, and then the fog kind of clears up for a bit, and it's nice and sunny. And we got some whales splashing around, and that was all cool. We get over here to Port Angeles here. Okay, so this is where the pilot station is. This is where the pilots get on, and so we picked up 2 pilots, and they helped us because none of us had ever been here before. So, we ended up going on our merry way, but it had fog, so the fog had built back up in here, and so we basically didn't even see the pilot boat until it was alongside us. But yeah, we got our 2 pilots, kept going. Then we got to Admiralty Inlet, where it started blowing about 50. And we were just getting pounded the entire way through Admiralty Inlet because the wind, I mean, you know better than I do, but when it is windy, it just funnels right through there. And so it's one of those, it was just rough.
Big southeasterly going on.
Right. Yeah. So it was a nice bumpy ride down, but then we got into Elliott Bay. It was blowing hard all this way, and then we finally turned into Elliott Bay, and I had to pick up the barge off the tow wire. But I had a nice lead there in Elliott Bay, so it was nice and calm in there. So it was a nice way to end it. But
it does. It'll be blowing like crazy. It blows like crazy up. If you got southeasterly going or you got a low moving through, it blows like crazy up in the north part of the sound. Actually all of the sound, you get windy, but it'll be funneling up and blowing out Admiralty Inlet, Port Townsend area, and then and then you get out, and then it'll be nice, like you say. and then you get out towards die off there as you're getting out towards Protection Island, and then then it turns westerly, when you get around New Dungeness, it's then it all of a sudden you come around to the other way and you're going, oh boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but we got good harbors, I mean, we deal with quite a bit of wind. It depends, but we end up dealing with quite a bit of wind in the wintertime, in all areas of the sound, especially up north, and
sure.
Cherry Point and Anacortes, you get a lot of wind, and so, but with summertime, you can't let your guard down either, because you end up getting those pretty good westerlies coming out of the west, out in the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and it'll be snotty all the way to Port Townsend, so it's a great place to work, it's beautiful. And it'll lull you into forgetting what you shouldn't be forgetting is what
Yeah,
it does.
exactly. Yeah, that summertime is beautiful, and then that fall comes in, and you know, buckle up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, so we got a question here where the question is, where's the most dangerous location in Puget Sound? I don't know if you have an answer for that. I feel like there's several dangerous locations. I think it's all about timing and wind and current kind of thing.
Oh yeah, one of the well, there's the a lot of things. As a recreational boater, that is really dangerous. One is ship traffic, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's if you're out in the fog and you're in the shipping lanes and there's a ship moving around, and that's one of the nice things about AIS now is that you can readily identify people that might be in the way. But that's a particular danger, being in an area where ships are moving in the fog,
Right.
and the because for a ship around Puget Sound, you get yourself in trouble with the current or the wind, but for a pleasure boater, getting out towards Port Townsend and Admiralty or out Admiralty on the in the wind or the current or the south end of the Straits of Rosario, you get Lawson Reef.
Yeah.
You
So
get
that's
a lot of wind and a lot of current. Where the wind's working different direction of the current, you get some pretty good chop going. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this is Lawson Reef, which I was talking about here. And,
Yeah, you got all that water that's dumping out of Rosario Strait, and if you have it southerly going, it'll or in a westerly swell, it'll really lump up there.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Get windy and somebody could get in trouble pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can see these depths here are all should be in fathoms, and so you can see here at Lawson Reef, it shoals up pretty quick, which causes this pretty hard current to run through here. And so you can even with not all that much wind, you can generally see chop right around marking the reef, basically. So and I know.
Yeah, just off to the east is Deception Pass, right?
Oh yeah. So
and if
yeah,
you're a pleasure boater, you might want to go in there, and you really have to have a good handle on the current when you're running through there.
Yeah, so Deception Pass. Let's see if I can pull this up here. So max ebb is 5.2 knots, 5.5 knots. It's moving.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of current there, so
that's
a place you want to be careful there. And there's all the San Juan Islands. There's little keyholes that you want to watch out for, and you want to be getting pretty good local. If you're a pleasure boater, you want to do your studying and be prepared for some of the stuff you see, because you don't want to be prepared. You don't want to get into a situation that's over your head or over your vessel's capability, and make a great outing into a bad outing.
Exactly. Yeah. I know for me, it's like when I was working out there, we primarily my boat ran from Anacortes, which is what we have on the screen here, down to Point Wells, Seattle, and Tacoma, just back and forth all the time. And so making the run north and south, the long haul, I was always when it came to looking at weather and currents, it was always, all right, what's it going to be doing at Admiralty Inlet? What's it going to be doing? Just the areas you were covering, really. Here in Guames, what's the current be doing? Because this current kind of comes in three. You can really get kind of nasty.
You can get stopped in there if you're on a tug with a loaded barge. You can get stopped in Guames Channel.
Yep. Yeah.
I know.
So our autopilot would stop working if we drop below 2 knots, and so there were plenty of times we were coming north here, and we were doing about a knot, towing a barge, and on hand steering, just trying to get going, So it was a real battle. Yeah. And it seemed like I was always jealous because we had two other boats that were primarily south near Seattle or Tacoma working, and we were the only ones kind of running north and south the entire time. And I was getting pretty jealous, because whenever I looked at the weather, it seemed like there was just this, it just seemed like bad weather just developed over the Anacortes area, right in this area that we're talking about. It just kind of brewed here. It seemed like.
Oh yeah, it's a microsystem in there. You get the wind and stuff coming in from the west and everything, and from the south, from the opening from the north end of the Olympic Islands, and the Olympic Mountains, and from the south, it comes all the way up through the Sound, and you just get a lot of wind movement going on and micro weather systems going, and that's why as going into the dock at Anacortes, it's a windy spot up there, and up through Vendovia Island, Anchorage, and up to Bellingham and Cherry Point. It's just, those are just really, really windy areas,
Yeah. And would you say it seemed like things settled down in the summertime. You still had your systems that came through. So yeah, I guess it's just about, when it comes to the summer, it's just keeping an eye on the forecast and looking out for those storms coming from the west, like you were saying.
Generally, it's pretty good, but if you get that westerly in the afternoon and evening, and you don't want to be stuck in that for sure.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people, they'll go up inside, Saratoga Pass and inside Whidbey Island up through Swinomish Channel, to Anacortes. That's what a lot of reporters will do there. The inside there of Whidbey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
It's right through here. Yeah. Come up through here.
Yeah, and it's really pretty. It's a really nice area.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I think there's, you can stop. I'm sure there's brew pubs along the way. Great restaurants and pubs.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we get our next question, just asking if as a pilot, are you steering? Are you giving commands?
It depends. It depends on the ship. Generally, you're given, compass commands. That you got a helmsman, a guy on the wheel, a quartermaster, helmsman, and you're giving them a course. You give them a rudder direction. To port 10, and the ship will start swinging, and you might ease it to port 5, and you'll direct that to the helmsman, and then you may give them a course. Like if you change in course from 190 degrees, you might be changing your course to enter in Elliott Bay. You might steer that by hand. You just give them a port 10 command, and the ship will swing around towards into around the Sierra Gulf buoy, and you'll steady up on a course of about 135, which is basically steering on Duwamish headlight. And so you might come around, you have 15 degrees rate of turn, and then you'll give them that command to steady up on 135, and then the helmsman will steady up on 135, and so it's kind of a little bit of a mix. And then on some of the newer ships, they'll have a autopilot. You might go on autopilot sometimes, and either the quartermaster will adjust the autopilot the way you want, or you will. Maybe you're familiar with the equipment and you can do it, or you have the officer will do it. It's a little bit of a mix.
Right. Yeah.
All the systems these days, bulker, or older ship, you may not have it, but some of the newer ships have really, really good equipment.
Yeah. So how do you adjust? Like, all these ships behave differently. Is it just kind of you get on and you just kind of feel things out and adjust as you go, as far as ship handling goes?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, so I'm pretty used to. I have a pretty good expectation of what's going to happen with the ship,
Yeah.
if it's light, or if it's loaded, or if it's a bulker or a car ship, or a container ship with a lot of containers on it, or not a lot of containers, or heavy go. Just you get used to it. You pick,
Yeah.
you from doing it, and that's one of the reasons that we have the training program the way it
Sure.
is that you move up through different types and levels of ships. The first
Mhm.
5 years that you're piloting, and so you get a pretty good feel for it.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I mean, there's a big difference between a car ship. If you're taking a car ship up the Blair Waterway, and a tanker that's loaded fairly deep,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
so
Gotcha.
but you're pretty prepared for it. It's
Yeah.
everybody's been through a lot of training, and you've had a lot of experience. And
So you were talking about, recreational boats being, in the fog and the lane. So I just want to kind of touch on that a little bit.
Sure.
I mean, these lanes here are, designated ship lanes. And I think some boaters don't realize that, they're not to impede commercial traffic that are utilizing the lanes. So they shouldn't just be drifting around in there. You shouldn't really be in them at all, unless you're crossing them, and staying out of the way.
Mhm.
And I know, like when it comes to fishing season, and it seems like everybody in the area is out fishing for salmon off Port Jefferson, President Point. I remember,
Oh yeah, sure, Jeff.
I had a radar overlay, and it was just like a wall of boats that came all the way across, and we got. I mean, the ships are going at full sea speed, up to 20 knots at times, and I know. I mean, tugs are relatively slow, but still, we're big, and we can't maneuver all that well, especially when there's current or wind. And so I think it's one of those important things that people need to be aware of, that they do need to be out of the way. I mean, there was one time I was following a ship, and I was just kind of following their lead as they kind of braved their way through all the boats, and as long as I stayed close behind the ships, I knew the boats wouldn't follow in behind them and get in my way as well. I don't know I mean, do you have strategies for dealing with those kind of situations, or just kind of weaving your way through?
Oh yeah, you can pick out the person. You can really pick out the person that's going to give you the trouble.
Yeah.
And I use, I've been doing it, so I can pick out which, there might be 100 boats, and you can pick out the one that that's going to give you the trouble, and you throw the whistle at them, and then
Right.
You try to contact them, throw the whistle at them and to get their attention, and and you try to avoid them for sure. That's the sound, it's for everybody, and that's
Sure.
one of my jobs is to make it safe, and so that means you should adjust your speed, if
Right.
Yeah. You need to, and most pilots do. They'll slow down or go out of the lanes or go out of the way to avoid somebody. I mean, you don't want to hurt anybody,
Right. Absolutely.
You don't want to get somebody get hurt, but really important thing for the vessels to do is to be aware that they're where they're at in relationship to maybe a traffic lane or the shipping lanes, or really where they at. They have to have a good idea where they're and what they're going to run across.
Right.
And they also have to understand that the shipping lanes are there to enhance safety for them, as well as for the ships. And so, and if there's a ship approaching, they want to get out of them, because that's what the guys on the tugs or the fishing boats or the ships, that's what they want to see is, somebody proactively getting out of the way.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of waiting for the last minute to get out of the way, you want to see them getting out of the way early, and And you try and one of the most important things is instead of doing it really, really slow or making little movements, is making big, large movements and making it known that that's what they're doing, is that's what they're getting out of the way. And so you can really, a lot of people are really, really good about that, and you can pick up on it, but you can pick out that one guy that's wanting to test his survivor skills.
Yeah, so just give people an idea.
He's going to test my skills too. I've never had an issue. I've always, like I said, the whistle is my best friend. And actually speed's your friend too. But because you get away from somebody pretty quick, and
Sure.
But and as a pilot, one of the things that you do is when you make changes to what you're doing is you make big changes. You don't kind of make little course changes, or when you're trying to let somebody know what you're doing, you sound the whistle and then you make a course change, so they know what you're doing. They're looking at you and they see it. So it's a two-part deal. But the biggest, I'd say the biggest thing for pleasure boaters, just be aware where they're at. And ships come, and they come really, really quickly. They don't if somebody low on the water doesn't see a ship until it's on them, and then it's moving really, really fast. So
but hey,
it's a big area, and it's for everybody, right?
That's right. Yeah, just to give people an idea of your view, I'm just going to show some pictures here that you sent me.
Oh yeah. That's probably 1,100. I'm on a 1,100 foot ship there, and it's I don't know, it's probably 9,000, 10,000, probably 10,000 TEU ship, which is a TEU is a 20-foot equivalent. So if you see a short box, that's a 20-foot box, and that's how they measure it, is a short container. But like you'll see a container, I think 40 feet, 45 feet, is one container. So if it's a 10,000 TEU ship, it's got 5,000 capacity for 5,000 containers on it. And then I don't know if you can see the ship in the distance, but that's a tote ship. It's a ro-ro ship. It runs between Tacoma and every week between Tacoma and Anchorage, Alaska.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah. I think Mount Rainier's in the background there, right?
Oh yeah. Look at that.
That's a beautiful day.
Yeah. Lots of days like that in the summer for sure.
Oh yeah. I remember that day. It was a great day. Thank God my technologically gifted son got those to you.
Yeah. So here's a nice view out the bridge wing here. Looking back at the city.
Oh, sure. That's Seattle there.
Yep.
And you're looking at
Let's see if we can.
You're
zoom
looking at LA Bay Marina, I believe, is right there.
Yeah, right on the corner here.
Yeah, and I think that's a 11,000 TEU ship. It's a ship that has the house forward, and I can't.
Right. Yeah. So you're looking back right now, but I mean, it could be the same situation if that was the bow. This is what you're looking at. So if somebody's 100 feet away from me, you're not going to see them.
No,
I think that's
no. I mean, if they get lost over under your bow, boy, that's
right. Yeah.
And you can see the bow, the blind spots, goes out there quite a ways.
Right. Yeah. Well, it can be deceiving. You think like, oh, I'm a couple hundred feet away. They can see me. I was like, well, that's not really the case. The blind spots are pretty huge. Oh yeah. So we got a question here. Are those fuel barges that anchor around Elliott Bay Marina and in Grain Terminal, do they refuel the ships off the barge? Yes. So they do. Those are the tugboat barges that I used to work on.
That's your area of expertise, Jeremy.
That's right. Yeah. So when you see them hanging out anchored there, they're just waiting for their next job. And that's what they're doing. I don't know, Joe. You got any other tips about Puget Sound? I don't know if you haven't seen any common issues that have come up as far as boaters getting in trouble or anything like that.
Just being, nighttime, you want to be really, really careful at nighttime. You want to make, if you're out at night, you want to make sure you have good lights, side lights, masthead lights, that are really bright, and you really want to stay out of the way. If you ship come in, and you really, really want to be prepared to be out of that ship's way, because they may not see you at nighttime. They may not pick you up on the radar, and if you don't have AIS, they won't see you on the ECDIS equipment, and they might, you may be obscured by background lights, shore lights. Your light may be so dim that they aren't readily seen. So you want to make sure you have good bright navigation lights, and AIS. It's really, to have an AIS now is pretty good to have as far as being identified, and then the other thing is being in the fog and the traffic lanes. You want to be careful of, and the different current and weather systems that we have. You can have squalls come through and get into trouble pretty quick. So that's you just want to be prepared. Being involved in some type of yacht program, or any kind of education you can get enhances your safety out on the water. So there's a lot of yacht clubs that have training programs, and just knowledge is key, right?
I try to encourage everybody to try and take more courses and rack up that knowledge, because for most boaters, it's a hobby, not a profession. So it's like, I don't know, reading a book about dentistry and trying to become a dentist. I don't know, but you gotta keep filling that brain full of knowledge, because it's an ever changing environment.
What's really, really important is they understand. If they are out there, it's fun. One, it's fun for the boaters, and it's also enhances their safety hugely. Is making sure they have a radio that's on the traffic channel 14, or channel 5 alpha when they're south of Bush Point line, that they're on, and north of Possession Point, that they're on 5 alpha, and that they're on channel 14 south of in the south of the Bush Point nodule line, and south of Possession Point, they're on channel 14. And if not, that they're monitoring channel 13, 13 and 16. Most VHF sets can monitor channel 13 and 16 at the same time. And so that's really important to monitor the frequencies, because one, they can get a hold of the Coast Guard and hear Coast Guard on channel 16. And the VTS, they also, if you have a radio tuned to the VTS channels, then you'll get emergency broadcasts from the VTS. They'll tell you if there's an issue, in certain parts of the sound, or
because the VTS is operated by the Coast Guard, so they'll so the points Joe's talking about here is Nodule and Bush Point. Is if you draw a line right across here. Okay, so south of this was 14, and then north of there is going to be 5A, 5 alpha. Okay, so some, as part, when commercial vessels are in a VTS system and they're monitoring those channels, part of the thing is that they're actually not required to monitor 16 while they're in that system, just because the Coast Guard runs the VTS system. I mean, a lot of them do still, but if you're having trouble not being able to reach them, it's because they're in that VTS system and they're not monitoring 16. They're monitoring all these other channels as well. So they'll always answer on 13, or it should answer on 13. They're always monitoring it. That's how we communicate with each other. And those VTS channels, depending on what zone you're in,
Yeah, you'll always be able to get a ship on Channel 13. Yeah, tugboat, ship. I'm not so sure about a fishing vessel, but
Yeah.
some of most of the commercial traffic will be standing by the VTS channels and Channel 13.
One thing about 13 is that you have to check your power setting, because if it's on 1 watt versus 25 watts, 25 watts is a stronger signal when you talk on it. You're also might drown people out around you, but if somebody's having a hard time hearing you, they say you're broken up or something, you can try switching it to the 25 just to get the message across there. Just switch it back to 1, because it's kind of rude. It's kind of rude leaving it on 25. But yeah, like I was saying earlier, making the trips north and south, I look at, the forecast for the lower sound here. Okay. And I'd also look at the currents and see if, all right, well, is the wind going to be opposing the current? Because if it is, it's going to stack up and get kind of gnarly if it's strong enough wind. And it's like, if you're like a sailboat and you're trying to get through Admiralty, you're going to want to time out your arrival through, or your transit through Admiralty, so you have a favorable current. Because if you're a sailboat, you're underpowered, you're not going to do so well against a strong head current there. And it's along those same lines. You always think about if wind opposing the current, that's a bad situation when there's strong currents or strong winds. Partridge Bank area, I mean, the current's strong here. I mean, I know times I've come towing a barge out here with a fair current, and I go to make this turn, and I end up turning. I didn't turn soon enough, and I end up going way out here, and I have to come back around here because the current just grabs you and sets you sideways, and you're doing you're really moving. So,
God, I did that run for years. From North Sound down U.S. Oil and Tacoma and the Harbor Island, Arco, and oh boy, you're not kidding.
Yeah. You end up bow facing this way, just kind of going towards Partridge Bank. You're like, all right, you can start moving your way over now. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean that Sierra Alpha area is that can be a dicey area. The port,
absolutely.
You're talking about a dicey area for pleasure boaters. That area between that runs up from Marrowstone Point up to Point Wilson to Admiralty, or to Point Partridge there, and the Sierra Alpha precautionary area. That whole area right there, there's a lot of current. Often you get a lot of fog in there. There's ships coming and going. You got the ferry going across from Port Townsend to Keystone Harbor, and it's just and there's fishing going on right there off of Marrowstone Point, and so it's really an area to pay a lot of respect to for a pleasure boater, especially late in summer where you're starting to get a lot of fog, and in early summer when you're out and about, the fog, and then the westerly weather in the evening, so a lot of current. So like you say, that you get that current running in that, especially in that area, you get that current running into westerly swell or into the westerly wind. You get a pretty good chop. So
sure, and it could be deceiving if you're coming from the south, because if it's a westerly, Admiralty will be pretty protected, and then you'll get out here and it'll be 8 footers. It could be. I mean, it just slams you right in this area.
I've seen some really, really bad weather on there.
Right.
Just shoot.
And then then once you manage to get by here, once again, it's just up in this area where the current can rip really hard from multiple directions. If you're turning in towards Anacortes and you got an ebb current, it'll set you down on this red buoy here. So you just kind of, and you do have. So Washington State, Puget Sound's got what is it? Is it the largest ferry system in the world? or the
I
country?
don't know. It's pretty big. It's
Yeah.
one of the largest in the world for
Yeah,
sure.
so that's something you're always going to be dealing with in the Sound are the ferries, and they're really good. They're always on Channel 13. I got a question about Channel 13 being used in the Great Lakes, and yeah, Channel 13's used pretty much everywhere for ship-to-ship communication, so yeah, if you need to get a hold of commercial traffic, that's always a good bet.
You're talking about that the weather, there at Lawson Reef.
Yeah.
And it brought to mind I used to haul oil up on barges up to Southeast Alaska, and so we'd got through Johnson Strait. We come through inside of Vancouver Island, and it was just really, really snotty and terrible, and people were held up, and we had an empty barge, so we were able to make pretty good time in the weather. And yeah, I mean, you got to be careful with the barge itself, and pound
Right.
it in,
Yeah.
or beat it up. And came out of Seymour Narrows, and it was the fetch, from it goes all the way up the Strait of Georgia from the San Juan Islands, all the way up to Cape Mudge, and from Cape Mudge down to Sabine Pass, Texada Island. It was just miserable, and
Yeah.
it was just stacked up, and we had the current was with us, for them, but it just stacked everything up. I mean, it was 14, 15 foot, and it was just choppy. And as we got further south, it was really, really windy out of the south. And the further we got down towards Texada Island, past Courtney, BC, and down towards Paydos Island, the north end, the sea died down, but it was still really, really windy. And we go down through Rosario Strait, and we're, picking plates up, and repairing our rooms, and
Yeah.
it's only a couple 2.5 hours, from Paydos down to Lawson Reef. We get down to Lawson Reef, and it's bad, it's
Oh gosh.
big ebb, and it just was stacked up. We didn't get any relief at all till we got south of Smith Island. It was just miserable.
Yeah.
Oh man, that wintertime sailing,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So I know we're painting a pretty horrible picture here, but this really is a wonderful place to work.
You just got to be careful. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
And there's so many weather apps, and there's so many avenues for information for everybody, that it's just as long as you got a little bit of knowledge and how to apply the information you're getting to what you're doing as far as boating goes, then you'd be all right. You just got to be careful.
Right. Yeah. So like apps like I know a lot of boaters use Navionics, so it's like you can look up currents and tide stations on there and get that information fairly easily, and kind of time out how things are going to go and compare that to the forecast. And I always just try and push that people check multiple sources when it comes to forecasts to kind of see what the differences are. And I always stick with NOAA, and then I check out the Windy app and see what that's showing, and just kind of you don't want to just rely on just one source of information, at least in my
no, I got both those things, Windy and dark sky, and the National Weather Service website, all those apps in my little navigation suite on my phone, and on my bookmarks on my laptop. And we get pretty good information on our not our laptop, but on our tablets. We get pretty good tide information that's based on NOAA currents on our laptops. So you really do. One of the things you said, hit the nail on the head, is you really want to use that NOAA information first, and then you back it up with the other tides and currents, and the Windy app. You want to make sure you check that against the National Weather Service information. And so but there's, like you say, there's just a ton of information out there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And another thing is that, just because if you're going through all these different, forecasts, and you find one that paints a little better picture, that doesn't necessarily mean you want to go with that one. That could really bite you.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
and the National Weather Service, what do they update it? Everything every 6 hours.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's 3 in the morning, 9 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, 9 at night. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember I'd be headed out the Strait of Juan de Fuca. We used to haul a lot of oil down the coast and
Yeah.
on barges, and the weather just didn't sound very good at all, and
Right.
I'd be up in the wheelhouse listening to because they still have it on the VHF.
Oh yeah.
Your
Sure.
weather's
Yeah.
still available on VHF, and I'd be listening to the VHF and just willing it to change the forecast.
Yeah.
And just something else. But I love tugboats. I love tugboating, and I had great experience with it. Both my brother and I. That's mostly what we did. We had our own company for about 4 years up in Southeast Alaska, and so it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of great
Yeah.
experience, and you were asking me about the inside passage and going up there. You really got to have your information stacked up to do a transit
Right.
like that, because there are so many different areas and you go through so many different weather areas that but it's beautiful. The inside passage is beautiful, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah. It's just a matter of doing your homework before you go.
Yeah, and getting a hold of people that are experienced, listening to people and getting good knowledge.
Sure. Yeah.
What I do is, they have the weather observation postings, that you can get on the National Weather Service website, the NOAA website, and you can select, Smith Island, and you get Edith Hook, and you get weather up, all over the place. They have all sorts of different reporting stations, automated reporting stations, and you just compare that to the forecast, and it tells you if the forecast is accurate or not.
Right.
And you can tell, you can see, and like say that wind gap is really, really good, and the wind alert is really good. And you take I just generally take what the National Weather Service has, and then compare that to theirs, and then look at the what's trending at the different weather observation sites.
Yeah.
And you can tell if the wind's going to be, what the wind may be doing in like in Tacoma, if they have a heavy forecast and it's supposed to come down around 6 in the morning, if you can see that actually happening, on the weather, on the real-time weather observation reports.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's there's really, really good information, and generally, they'll over forecast. I know the Canadian weather system is always kind of over forecast what they generally have. They're pretty safe, and for me, us being on something larger, it's not. It's much different than being on a smaller boat in open water.
Yeah.
Where you're really, really dependent on, you get, 20, 25 knots of wind, things can change pretty quickly for you. Where it's not going to change that quickly for me as far as getting from point A to point B, or for you, but it'll have an effect on a 35-foot boat.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I feel like we could just keep going on for hours and hours here, Joe. But
Oh yeah.
But I do really appreciate you joining me for this. I hope people get something out of it.
Oh yeah. Do we have a minute? You asked me about a story in it.
Oh yeah, please do. Please share a story.
You have 1 minute.
That's the best part of the whole thing.
I'm on this fairly good sized ocean going tug, and we're towing a tanker. that's part of the Ready Reserve Fleet, and we're up in the Columbia River. I don't know if you made it up the Columbia River or not, but we're up the Columbia River, and we're just upriver from St. Helens, and we're headed up to Vancouver. And it was a really, it was kind of evening time, dinner time, and it was clear. Fortunately, it was really, really nice evening. It was clear. There's lots of pleasure vessels out, and we had a pretty good view, a pretty good sized tug that I was on, and the ship was, I suppose, about a 600-foot ship. I think, it might have been, 500-foot ship that we were towing. It was a dead ship, and there's a sailboat, and it's that one of those people that you just know is going to give you trouble, right? And he's got his sail up and he's sailing along, enjoying himself, and we could see him. You can see pretty well, and it was clear, and I could tell he was one of those guys. And so he's on the starboard side, which he was at an angle to, he was ahead of us, but he was closing, and we couldn't really move anywhere. We couldn't slow down for sure, and we couldn't really go anywhere. Right. So we kind of, affected by our maneuverability. And so I throw a long whistle at him just to wake him up, just so he knows we're there. Yeah. And he relents. He keeps closing. I'm looking at him. I says, I'm thinking, I could tell he was going to just be way too close. Yeah. And so I throw 5 short, the danger signal, sure. and he continues to relent. He does nothing. It's like he's being kind of belligerent a little bit. Yeah. And so I start throwing the horn at him, just a continuous whistle, and there's the other guys in the wheelhouse. We're looking at him, and up from below comes what we could definitely tell was a female. And the first thing she does is looks over at the tug, and how close we were getting. The second thing she does is she turns around, and we could tell she was just giving this guy grief. It's like, what the heck are you doing, you Nimrod? And the guy immediately turns to the right, Yeah. She's up there looking at us, and the lady, that maybe she is the one that should have been on the wheel, Yeah. But it was really, really funny. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Anyway, that's the one story I thought of that was you might enjoy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, Joe, thank you again so much.
No problem.
Greatly appreciate the insight and all the tips.
Yeah, no, and my son worked with you. He said, you're just a fantastic tugboater, and he showed you a lot of stuff.
Thanks.
He was really, really appreciative of that, and so.
Sure. Yeah, it was a pleasure working with him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, great.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, thanks. So for those of you watching, if you enjoyed yourself, this is going to be going on our YouTube channel, Untold Horizon LLC, our YouTube channel there. So feel free to subscribe there. You can see our future webinars. And thank you for tuning in.
As I was going over Kilgarra Mountain, I met Captain Farrell and his money he was counting. I first produced my pistol, I then produced my rapier, then stand and deliver. I am your bold deceiver, assuring da-ba-doo-da-ba-da. Whack full of daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar.